Hi and welcome to another story, and today we have part 1 of the story of Tracy Beaker by Jacqueline Wilson, starting from the very beginning. My book about me. About me. My name is Tracy Beaker. I am 10 years, 2 months old. My birthday is on the 8th of May. It's not fair because that dopey Peter Ingham has his birthday then too, so we just got the one cake between us, and we had to hold the knife to cut the cake together, which meant we only had half a wish each. Wishing is for babies anyway. They don't come true. I was born at some hospital somewhere. I looked cute when I was a little baby, but I better yelled a lot. I am centimetres tall. I don't know. I've tried measuring with a ruler, but it keeps wobbling about and I can't reach properly. I don't want to get any of the other children to help me. This is my private book. I weigh kilograms. I don't know that either. Jenny has got scales in her bathroom, but they're stones and pounds. I don't weigh many of them. I'm a little titch. My eyes are black, and I can make them go all wicked and witchy. I quite fancy being a witch. I'd make up all these incredibly evil spells and wave my wand and zap Louise's golden curls. They would all fall out and zap Peter Ingham's silly squeaky voice, and it would get sillier and squeakier, and he'd grow whiskers and a long tail and zap. There's not room on this bit of the page, but I've still got all sorts of zaps inside my head. My hair is fair and very long and curly. I am telling fibs. It's dark and difficult and it sticks up in all the wrong places. My skin is spotty when I eat a lot of sweets. I am not really cross-eyed. I was just pulling a face in this photo. I started this book on, I don't know, who cares what the date is? You always have to put the date at school. I got fed up with this and put 2091 in my daybook and wrote about all these rockets and spaceships and monsters legging it down from Mars to eat us all up, as if we'd all whizzed 100 years into the future. Miss Brown didn't get half narked. More things about me. Things I like. My lucky number is 7. So why didn't I get fostered by some fantastic rich family when I was 7 then? My favourite colour is blood red, so watch out. My best friend is, well, I've had heaps and heaps, but Louise has gone off with Justine, and now I haven't got anyone just at the moment. I like eating everything. I like birthday cake best, and any other kind of cake, and Smarties, and Mars bars, and big buckets of popcorn, and jelly spiders, and cornettos, and Big Macs, and French fries, and strawberry milkshakes. My favourite name is Camilla. There was a lovely little baby at this other home, and that was her name. She was a really sweet kid with fantastic hair that I used to try to get into loads of little plaits, and it must have hurt her sometimes, but she never cried. She really liked me, little Camilla. She got fostered quick as a wink. I begged her foster mum and dad to bring her back to see me, but they never did. I like drinking pints of bitter. No, that's a joke. I've had a sip of lager once, but I didn't like it. My favourite game is playing with makeup. Louise and I once borrowed some from Adele, who's got heaps. Louise was a bit boring and just tried to make herself look beautiful. I turned myself into an incredible vampire with evil, shadowy eyes and blood dribbling down my chin. I didn't half scare the little ones. My favourite animals is, well, there's a rabbit called Lettuce at this home, but it's a bit limp, like its name. It doesn't sit up and give you a friendly lick like a dog. I think I'd like a Rottweiler, and then all my enemies had better watch out. My favourite TV programme is horror films. Best of all, I like being with my mum. Things I don't like. The name, Justine, Louise, Peter. Oh, there's heaps and heaps of names I can't stand. Eating. Stew, especially when it's got great fatty lumps in it. I used to have this horrid foster mother called Auntie Peggy, and she was an awful cook. She used to make this slimy stew like molten stick, sick, and we were supposed to eat it all up, every single bit. Yuck! Most of all I hate Justine, that monster gorilla, and not seeing my mum. My own family. Here's a photo. This was when I was a baby. See? I was sweet then. And this is my mum. She's ever so pretty. I wish I looked more like her. The people in my own family are my mum. I don't have a dad. I lived with my mum when I was little and we got on great, but then she got this monster gorilla boyfriend and I hated him and he hated me back and beat me up, and so I had to be taken into care. No wonder my mum sent him packing. My own family live at, I'm not sure exactly where my mum lives now, because she has to keep moving about because she gets fed up living in one place for long. The phone number is, well, I don't know, do I? Funny though, I always used to bag this toy telephone in the playhouse at school and pretend I was phoning my mum. I used to have these long conversations with her. They were just pretend, of course, but I was only about 5 then, and sometimes it got to be quite real. Things about my family that I like. I like my mum because she's pretty and good fun, and she brings me lovely presents. My foster family. There's no point filling this bit in. I haven't got a foster family at the moment. I've had two. There was Auntie Peggy and Uncle Sid, first of all. I don't like them much and didn't get on with the other kids, so I didn't care when they got rid of me. I was in a children's home for a while, and then I had this other couple, Julie and Ted. They were young and friendly, and they bought me a bike, and I thought it was all going to be great. And I went to live with them, and I was ever so good, and did everything they said, and I thought I'd be staying with them until my mum came to get me for good, but then... I don't want to write about it. It ended up with me getting turfed out, through no fault of my own. I was so mad I smashed up the bike, so I didn't even have that anymore. And now I'm in a new children's home, and they've advertised me in the papers, but there weren't many takers, and now I think they're getting a bit desperate. I don't care though. I expect my mum will come soon anyway. My school. My school is called It's Kingley Junior School. It's been I've been to three other schools already. This one's okay, I suppose. My teacher is called Miss Brown. She gets cross if we just call her Miss. Subjects I do. Story writing, arithmetic, games, art, all sorts of things. And we do projects, only I never have the right stuff at home, so I can't do it properly and get a star. I like story writing best. I've written heaps of stories, and I do pictures for them too. I make some of them into books. I made Camilla a special baby book with big printed words and pictures of all the things she likes best, things like Teddy and ice cream, and your special friend Tracy. I also like art. We use poster paints. We've got them at the home too, but they all get gungy and mucked up and the brushes are useless. They've got good ones at school. This is a painting I did yesterday. If I was a teacher, I'd give it a gold star. 2 gold stars. My class is 3A. People in my class? I can't list all their names. I'd be here all night. I don't know some of them yet. There's not much point making friends because I expect I'll be moving on soon. Other teachers. Oh, they're all boring. Who wants to write about them? I get to school by going in the minibus. That's how all the kids in the home get to school. I'd sooner go in a proper car or walk it by myself, but you're not allowed. It takes hours, minutes. It varies. Sometimes it takes ages because the little kids can't find their pencil cases and the big ones try to bunk off and we just have to hang about waiting. Things I don't like about school. They all wear grey things. That's the uniform. And I've only got navy things from my last school. The teachers know why and I don't get into trouble, but the other kids stare. Being in care. My social worker is called Elaine, and sometimes she's a right pain. We talk about all sorts of boring things, but I don't like talking about my mum, not to Elaine. What I think about my mum is private. If I was older, I would live in this really great modern house all on my own, and I'd have my own huge bedroom with all my own things, special bunk beds just for me so that I've always got the top one, and a Mickey Mouse alarm clock like Justine's, and my own giant set of poster paints, and I'd have some felt tips as well, and no one would ever get to borrow them and mess them up, and I'd have my own television and choose exactly what programmes I want. And I'd stay up till gone 12 every night, and I'd eat at McDonald's every single day, and I'd have a big fast car so I could whiz off and visit my mum whenever I wanted. If I was a policeman, I would arrest the monster gorilla and I'd lock him up in prison forever. If I was a kitten, I would grow very long claws and sharp teeth and scratch and bite everyone so they'd get really scared of me and do everything I say. If I was yelled at, I would yell back. If I was invisible, I would spy on people. If I was very tall, I would stamp on people with my great big feet. If I was very rich, I would buy my own house, and then... I've done all that bit. I'm getting fed up with writing all this. What's on the next page? My own story. Use this space to write your story. The story of Tracy Beaker. Once upon a time, there was a little girl called Tracy Beaker. That sounds a bit stupid, like the start of a soppy fairy story. I can't stand fairy stories. They're all the same. If you're very good and very beautiful with long golden curls, then after sweeping up a few cinders or having a long kip in a cobwebby palace, this prince comes along and you live happily ever after, which is fine if you happen to be a goody-goody and look gorgeous, but if you're bad and ugly, when you've got no chance whatsoever. You get given a silly name like Rumpelstiltskin, and nobody invites you to their party and no one's ever grateful, even when you do them a whopping great favour. So of course you get a bit cheesed off with this sort of treatment. You stamp your feet in a rage and fall right through the floorboards, or you scream yourself into a frenzy and you get locked up in a tower and they throw away the key. I've done a bit of stamping and screaming in my time, and I've been locked up heaps of times. Once they locked me up all day long, and all night. That was at the first home, when I wouldn't settle because I wanted my mum so much. I was just little then, but they still locked me up, I'm not fibbing, although I do have a tendency to tell a few fibs now and again. It's funny. Auntie Peggy used to call it telling fairy stories. I'd say something like, "Guess what, Auntie Peggy? I just met my mum in the back garden, and she gave me a ride in her flash new sports car, and we went down the shopping arcade, and she brought me my very own huge bottle of scent, that posh poison one, just like the bottle Uncle Sid gave you for your birthday. And I was messing about with it, playing murderers, and the bottle sort of tipped, and it's gone all over me, as I expect you'll notice. But it's my scent, not yours. I don't know what's happened to yours. I think one of the other kids took it." You know, that sort of thing. I'd make it dead convincing, but Auntie Peggy wouldn't even listen properly. She'd just shake her head at me and get all cross and red and say, "Oh, Tracy, you naughty girl, you're telling fairy stories again." Then she'd give me a smack. Foster mothers aren't supposed to smack you at all. I told Elaine that Auntie Peggy used to smack me, and Elaine sighed and said, "Well, sometimes, Tracy, you really do ask for it." Which is a lie in itself. I have never in my life said, "Auntie Peggy, please will you give me a great big smack?" And her smacks really hurt too, right on the back of your leg where it stings most. I didn't like that Auntie Peggy at all. If I was in a real fairy story, I'd put a curse on her. A huge wart right on the end of her nose. Frogs and toads coming wriggling out of her mouth every time she tries to speak. No, I can make up better than that. She can have permanent, huge, great bogies hanging out of her nose that won't go away no matter how many times she blows it. And whenever she tries to speak, she'll make this terribly loud, rude noise. Great. Oh dear. You can't win, Elaine. My stupid old social worker was sitting beside me when I started writing the story of Tracy Beaker. And I got the giggles, making up my brilliant curses for Auntie Peggy, and Elaine looked surprised and said, "What are you laughing at, Tracy?" I said, "Mind your own business." And she said, "Now, Tracy." And then she looked at what I'd written, which is a bit of a cheek, seeing as it's supposed to be very private. She sighed, then she got the Auntie Peggy part and said, "Really, Tracy?" And I said, "Yes, really, Elaine." And she sighed again, and her lips moved for a moment or two. That's her taking a deep breath and counting up to 10. Social workers are supposed to do that when a child is being difficult. Elaine ends up doing an awful lot of counting when she's with me. When she got to 10, she gave me this big, false smile. Like this. "Now look, Tracy," said Elaine. "This is your own special book about you, something that you're going to keep forever. You don't want to spoil it by writing all sorts of silly, cheeky, rude things in it, do you?" I said, "It's my life, and it hasn't been very special so far, has it? So why shouldn't I write any old rubbish?" Then she sighed again, but sympathetically this time, and she put her arm around me and said, "Hey, I know you've had a hard time, but you're very special. You know that, don't you?" I shook my head and tried to wriggle away. "Yes, you are, Tracy. Very, very special," Elaine said, hanging on to me. "Then, if I'm so very, very special, how come no one wants me?" I said. "Oh dear. I know it must have been very disappointing for you when your second placement went wrong, love, but you mustn't let it depress you too much. Sooner or later you'll find the perfect placement. A fantastic rich family? Maybe a family, or maybe a single person, if someone really suitable came along." I gave her this long look. "You're single, Elaine, and I bet you're suitable, so why don't you foster me, eh?" It was her turn to wriggle then. "Well, Tracy, you know how it is. I mean, I've got my job. I have to deal with lots of children. But if you fostered me, you could stop bothering with all the others and just look after me. They give you money if you foster. I bet they'd give you lots extra because I'm difficult. And I've got behaviour problems and all that. How about it, Elaine? It would be fun. Honest, it would." "I'm sure it would be lots of fun, Tracy, but I'm sorry. It's just not on," Elaine said. She tried to give me a big hug, but I pushed her hard. "I was only joking," I said. "Yuck. I couldn't stand the thought of living with you. You're stupid and boring, and you're all fat and wobbly. I'd absolutely hate the idea of you being my foster mum." "I can understand why you're angry with me, Tracy," said Elaine, trying to look cool and calm, but sucking in her stomach all the same. I told her I wasn't a bit angry, though I shouted as I said it. I told her I didn't care a bit, though I had these silly watery eyes. I didn't cry, though. I don't ever cry. Sometimes people think I do, but it's my hay fever. "I expect you're going to think up all sorts of revolting curses for me now," said Elaine. "I'm doing it right this minute," I told her. "OK," she said. "You always say OK," I told her. "You know, OK, that's fine with me. If that's what you want, I'm not going to make a fuss. OK, Tracy, yes, I know you've got this socking great axe in your hand and you're about to chop off my head because you're feeling angry with me. But OK, if that's the way you feel, I'm not going to get worried about it because I'm this super cool social worker." She burst out laughing then. "No one can stay super cool when you're around, Tracy," she said. "Look, kiddo, you write whatever you want in your life story. It's your own book after all." So that's that. This is my own book, and I can write whatever I want. Only I'm not quite sure what I do want, actually. Maybe Elaine could help after all. She's over the other side of the sitting room, helping that wet Peter with his book. He hasn't got a clue. He's filling it all in so slowly and so seriously, not writing it, but printing it, with that silly blotchy biro of his, trying to do it ever so carefully, but failing miserably, and now he's smudged some of it, so it looks a mess anyway. I've just called Elaine, but she says she's got to help Peter for a bit. The poor little petal is getting all worried in case he puts the wrong answers, as if some dopey intelligence test is taking place. I've done heaps of them, intelligence tests. They're all over so easy peasy. I can do them quite quick as a wink. They always expect kids in care to be as thick as bricks, but I get 100 out of 100 nearly every time. Well, they don't tell you the answers, but I bet I do. Tracy Beaker is a stupid show-off, and this is the silliest load of rubbish I've ever read, and if she's so super intelligent, how come she wets her bed like a baby? Ignore the stupid scribble up above. It's all lies anyway, it's typical. You can't leave anything for 2 minutes in this rotten place without one of the other kids spoiling it. But I never thought anyone would stoop so low as to write in my own private life story. And I know who did it too. I know Justine Littlewood, and you just wait. I'm going to get you. I went over to rescue Elaine from that boring, wimpy little Peter, and I had a little peer into his book, and I nearly fell over, because you'll never guess who he's put as his best friend. Me! Me! Is this some sort of joke? I demanded. He went all red and mumbly and tried to hide what he'd put, but I'd already seen it. My best friend is Tracy Beaker. It was down there on the page in black and white. Well, not your actual black and white, more your smudgy blue biro, but you know what I mean. Go away and stop pestering poor Peter, Elaine said to me. Yes, but he's putting absolute rubbish in his book, Elaine, and it's stupid. I'm not Peter Ingham's best friend. Well, I think it's very nice that Peter wants you to be his friend, said Elaine. She pulled a funny face. There's no accounting for taste. Oh, ha ha. Why did you put that, Peter? Peter did a little squeak about sharing birthdays, and so that made us friends. It does not make us friends, Dumbo, I declared. Elaine started getting on at me then, saying I was being nasty to poor little Petey-weety, and if I couldn't be friendly, why didn't I just push off and get on with my own life story? Well, when people tell me to push off, I generally try to stick to them like glue, just to be annoying, so that's what I did. And then Jenny called me into the kitchen, because she made out she wanted a hand getting the lunch ready. But that was just a ploy. Jenny doesn't smack. She doesn't even often tell you off. She just uses ploys and tries to distract you. It sometimes works with the thicker kids, but it usually has no effect whatsoever on me. However, I quite like helping in the kitchen because you can generally nick a spoonful of jam or a handful of raisins when Jenny's back is turned. So I went along to the kitchen and helped her put an entire shoal of fish fingers under the double grill while she got the chip pan bubbling. Fish fingers don't taste so great when they're raw. I tried nibbling just to see. I don't know why they're called fish fingers. They don't have fingers, do they? They ought to have fish fins. That's Auntie Peggy used to make this awful milk pudding called tapioca, which had these little slimy bubbly bits. And I told the other kids that they were fish eyes, and I told the really little ones that marmalade is made out of goldfish, and they believed that too. When Jenny started serving out the fish fingers and chips, I went back to the sitting room to tell everyone that lunch was ready, and I remember seeing Louise and Justine hunched up in a corner, giggling over something they'd got hidden. I don't know. I am highly intelligent. I truly wasn't making that up, and yet it was a bit thick of me not to twig what they were up to, which was reading my own life story and then scribbling all over it. A little twit like Peter Ingham would tell, but I'm no telltale tit. I shall simply get my own back. I shall think long and carefully for a suitably horrible revenge. I don't half hate that Justine. Before she came, Louise and I were best friends, and we did everything together, and even though I was still dumped in a rotten children's home, it really wasn't so bad. Louise and I made out we were sisters, and we had all these secrets, and one of these secrets was about a certain small problem that I have, a nighttime problem. I've got my own room, and so it was always a private problem that only Jenny and I knew about. Only to show Louise we were the bestest friends ever, I told her about it. I knew it wasn't a sensible move right from the start, because she giggled, and she used to tease me about it a bit, even when we were still friends. And then she went off with Justine, and I'd sometimes worry that she might tell on me, but I always convinced myself she'd never ever stoop that low. Not Louise. But she has told. She's told Justine, my worst enemy. So what am I going to do to her? Any ideas ticking away inside my head? Well, I could beat her up. Tick, tick, tick. I could deliver a karate chop death blow. Tick, tick, tick. I could get my mum to come in her car and run her over, squashing her hedgehog flat. Tick, tick, tick. Hey, tick-tock, tick-tock. I know. And I also know I'm not leaving this book hanging about. From now on, I shall carry it on my person. So, ha-ha, sucks boo to you, Justine Littlewood. Oh, you're going to get it. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Hee. I'm writing this at midnight. I can't put the light on because Jenny might still be prowling about, and I don't want another ding-dong with her. Thanks very much. I'm making do with a torch. Only the battery's going, so there's just this dim little glow, and I can hardly see what I'm doing. I wish I had something to eat. In all these Enid Blyton school stories, they always have midnight feasts. The food sounds a bit weird, sardines and condensed milk, but I could murder a Mars bar right this minute. Imagine a Mars bar as big as this bed. Imagine licking it, gnawing away at a corner, scooping out the soft part with both fists. Imagine the wonderful chocolatey smell. I'm slavering at the fort. Yes, that's what those little marks are on the page. Slavers. I don't cry. I don't ever cry. I acted as if I didn't care less when Jenny had a real go at me, and I don't. I think you really do care, Tracy, she said, in that silly, sorrowful voice. Deep down, I think you're really very sorry. That's where you're wrong, I insisted. Come off it now. You must know how you'd feel if your mother had bought you a special present and one of the other kids spoilt it. As she said that, I couldn't help remembering being in the first home, long before the dreaded Auntie Peggy or that mean, hateful, unfair Julie and Ted. My mum came to see me, and she'd bought this doll, a doll almost as big as me, with long golden curls and a bright blue lacy dress to match her big blue eyes. I'd never liked dolls all that much, but I thought this one was wonderful. I called her Bluebell, and I undressed her right down to her frilly white knickers and dressed her up again and brushed her blonde curls and made her blink her big blue eyes. And at night she'd lie in my bed, and we'd have these cosy little chats, and she'd tell me that Mum was coming back really soon, probably tomorrow, and... OK, that sort of thing makes me want to puke now, but I was only little then, and I didn't know any better. The house mother let me cart Bluebell all over the place, but she tried to make me give the other kids a go at playing with her. Well, I wasn't going to let that lot maul her about, so of course I didn't let them. So I didn't let them get hold of her. But I came unstuck when I started school. You weren't allowed to take toys to school, only on a Friday afternoon. I cried and fought, but they wouldn't let me. So I had to start leaving Bluebell at home. I took her up in my bed, with her eyes closed, pretending she was asleep, and then when I got home from school, I'd charge upstairs into our crummy little dormitory and wake her up with a big hug. Only one day, I woke her up, and I got the shock of my life. Her eyelids snapped open, but her blue eyes had vanished inside her head. Some rotten, lousy pig had given them a good poke. I couldn't stand it, seeing those creepy, empty sockets. She stopped being my friend. She just scared me. The house mother took Bluebell off to this doll's hospital, and they gave her some new eyes. They were blue too, but not the same bright blue, and they didn't blink properly either. They either got stuck together, or they flashed up and down all the time, making her look silly and fluttery. But I didn't really care then. She was spoilt. She wasn't the same Bluebell. She didn't talk to me anymore. I never found out which kid had done it. The house mother said it was a mystery, just one of those things. Jenny didn't call it a mystery when Justine went sobbing to her because her silly old Mickey Mouse alarm clock had got broken. Clocks break all the time. It's not as if it's a really flash expensive clock. If I'd been Jenny, I'd have told Justine to stop making such a silly fuss. I'd have stopped at my tears when that sneaky little twerp started going on about me. I bet I know who did it too. Jenny, that Tracy Beaker. Yes, she sneaked on me. And Jenny listened because she came looking for me. She had to look quite a long time. I kind of suspected what was coming, so I cleared off. I didn't try to hide in the house or the garden like one of the little kids. I'm not that dumb. They can flush you out in 5 minutes, no matter where you are. No, I skipped it out to the back door and down the road and went for a wander around the town. It was great. Yes, I had the most amazing time. First I went to McDonald's and I had a Big Mac and French fries with a strawberry milkshake. And then I went to the pictures and saw this really funny film, and I laughed so much I fell out of my seat. And then I went off on this whole crowd of friends to an amusement arcade, and I kept winning the jackpot on the fruit machines. And then we all went off to the party, and I drank a whole bottle of wine, and it was great, and it just tasted just like lemonade. And this girl there, we made friends, and she asked me if I'd like to stay the night, sharing her twin beds in this fantastic pink and white room. In fact, she said I could stay there permanently if I really wanted to, and so I said no thanks, I'd sooner go back to my crummy children's home. Of course I didn't say that. Well, she didn't say it either. I just sort of made her up. and her party. I didn't go down the amusement arcade, or to the pictures, or McDonald's. I would have done, but I couldn't, on account of the fact I ran off with no cash whatsoever. I said I tell fibs sometimes. It makes things more interesting. I mean, what's the point of writing what I really did, which was loaf about in town, feeling more and more fed up? The only thing I could think of to do was sit in the bus shelter. It got a bit boring. I pretended I was waiting for a bus, and I tried to think of all the places I'd like to go. But that began to depress me, because I started thinking about Watford, where my mum said she lived. And last year I got all the right money together, which created a few problems afterwards, as I sort of borrowed it without asking, and sussed out the journey, and got all these trains and buses and all the rest of it, so that I could pay my mum a visit and give her a lovely surprise. Only it was me that got the surprise, because she wasn't there. And the people who lived in that house said that she'd moved on about 6 months ago, and they didn't have a clue where she'd gone now. So, it's going to take a bit of organised searching to find her again. I could catch a different bus every day for the rest of my life and maybe not find her. It's hard when you haven't got a clue where to look. I was still scrunched up in the bus shelter when a familiar white minivan hoved into view. It was Mike, come looking for me. Mike looks after us with Jenny. He isn't half a bore. He doesn't often get cross, but he whinges on about rules and responsibility, and a whole lot of other rubbish as well. So, by the time I'd got back to the home, I was sick to death of the subject. But then Jenny came into my bedroom, and she started. And she assumed it was me that broke Justine's clock, though she had no proof whatsoever. I told her so, and said she just liked picking on me, and it wasn't fair. She said I'd feel better if I owned up to breaking Justine's clock, and then went to say sorry to her. I said she had to be joking. I wasn't the slightest bit sorry. And anyway, I didn't break Justine's rotten clock. That isn't necessarily a fib. I don't absolutely 100% know that I broke it. All right, I did go into her bedroom when she was in the bathroom, and I did pick up the clock to look at it. Well, she's always going on about it because she's got this boring thing about her dad. She makes out he's so flipping special when he hardly ever comes to see her. The only thing he's ever given her is that stupid, tiny, tinny old alarm clock. I wanted to look at it, to see if it really was so special. Well, it wasn't. I bet he just got it from Woolworths, and it certainly wasn't made very carefully, because when I twiddled the knobs to make this little Mickey on the end of the hands go whizzing around and around, he couldn't keep it up for very long. There was a sudden whir and clunk, and then the hand fell off altogether, and Mickey fell too, with his little paws in the air, dead. But he might have been about to take his last gasp anyway. That hand might well have fallen off the next time Justine touched the stupid clock to wind it up. I'm not going to say sorry, no matter what. I wish I could get to sleep. I'll try counting sheep. I still can't get to sleep, and it's the middle of the night now, and it's rotten, and I keep thinking about my mum. I wish she'd come and get me. I wish anyone would come and get me. Why can't I ever get a good foster family? That Auntie Peggy and Uncle Sid were lousy, but then I could suss them out and tell they were lousy right from the start. Anyone who smacks hard and serves up frog spawn for your pudding is certainly not an ideal auntie. But last time, when I got fostered by Julie and Ted, I really thought it was all going to work out happily after all, and that it was my turn to be the golden princess instead of Rumpelstiltskin. And that is where we will leave part 1 of the story of Tracy Beaker by Jacqueline Wilson. I'll be back soon with the next part of this fantastic story, and lots more stories and videos coming your way very soon. If you would like to subscribe or hit a like, that's always appreciated. Thanks for your support, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.